anyway, so there's a lot of people here who know all about this stuff I'm going to start with. And anyway, so archaeologists like to put the past into what they call cultural chronologies. And in the northern plains, where we are, there's many, many different types of cultural chronologies. And I used the one that George Friesen developed several years ago with some modifications. So anyway, so he has the Paleo-Indian period, early archaic, early plains archaic, middle plains archaic, late plains archaic, and then the late prehistoric. And this is where George and I kind of separate a little bit. I have the late prehistoric broken down into 2 different episodes. And I start my late prehistoric period around AD 1, and George starts at around AD 500. But except for that, it's basically Dr. Friesen's cultural chronology. And so we got projectile point styles, and majority of the people here know more about projectile points than I do. I just see projectile points as just kind of part of a bigger picture, so I don't focus on them as much as a lot of collectors do. So again, majority of the people know about where we're at. We're in the Powder River Basin. It's a very large syncline. It runs down to about the Casper, all the way up to about Miles City, and west to the Bighorn Mountains, and east to the into the Black Hills. Anyway, so we're going to be talking mostly just about these sites right in this area right here, and then we'll jump up to the site here that I've been working on for the last 2 years. Anyway, so we're going to start with the Kerr-McGee site. And that site is just a few miles northeast of where we are at right now. And so in 1975, the University of Wyoming was notified this site existed. In 1977, they went out and excavated the site. And what they found was that the site was eroding quite extensively, but also the locals were digging into it a lot, and it was considerably destroyed. In 1984, George Friesen published an article in American Antiquity on the site. So I'm going to borrow George's American Antiquity article for the paleo discussion. Anyway, so it was in a what I call a coulee. He calls it a arroyo. But anyway, it was in this drainage. So we start out with Clovis, we had Folsom, and we're moving on up to the Hell Gap and the Cody complex. And anyway, we get from this later stuff, the deposits were somewhat mixed, and so it was a tough site to do the article on. Anyway, so here are the 2 Clovis points that they recovered. And then we have the Folsom. There were no complete Folsom points recovered. It was really neat. They got these flakes from making the channels on the points, and so clearly they were manufacturing points on the site. And we just go up a little more in time here as keep working our way up. And this again, moving our way up, and then we get to absolutely my most favorite point there is. That's the Eden Point. So anyway, so what they found is the Clovis level contained 2 projectile points and camel bone. I just love the idea of camel running around the Powder River Basin. I mean, in my imagination, we have, you know, that nice herd of bison down here south of it. I just wish there would, some rancher would go and buy some camel. They just look right. I mean, they just look like they belong there.
There's a couple up by Buffalo.
Oh, there are some camels?
Yes, there are 2. I couldn't believe it.
Oh, awesome. I mean, real camel.
Real camels.
Man, I've got to find them. I've got to find them and photograph them. Yeah, they just, somehow camel belong here. Anyway, and then from the Folsom level, they found a couple broken points and the channel flakes, and some bison bone. And the Hell Gap agate basin level, again, they found bison and deer pronghorn sized bones and bifaces and flakes. That Cody, Alberta level, they had 14 Eden and Scott points, 3 Alberta points, 5 scrapers, and 1 flake tool, 1 graver, and a few flakes, and more bison bone. So anyway, the site had been occupied from around 9,000 BC to around 7,000 BC, obviously intermittently. And they got a lot of information from what they had to work with. Anyway, so we're going to start the Holmes Draw site. Spent a few years working on that. Marilee can tell me that. She thought I was going to work on there for the rest of my life. Anyway, so here's Wright, Wyoming. We go about 20 miles southeast of Wright. And it's in Holmes Draw, which is a tributary of School Creek. And it's a pretty rugged type of and eroded drainage. And it's a very large site. We're going to be talking about this right here. This is a early Plains Archaic occupation. There's a little bit of it left over here. So how do we know where to excavate? Anyway, so about around 2000, I thought, well, we'd give it a try to use a gradiometer, which is a type of magnetometer. Now, this type of machine for remote sensing have been used extensively in different kinds of sites, but had not been used in the type of sites we have in the Thunder Basin or the Powder River Basin. So I came to Marilee, who worked for Peabody Coal, and said, gee, I would like to give this a try. And she said, sure. And so Archaeophysics from Minneapolis came out, and it would just change the whole archaeology of the Powder River Basin. And if I had had that remote sensing 30 years ago, we would know today many, many times more than we know now. And but for the last 10 plus years, it's been a wonderful addition to the study of archaeology. Anyway, so what Jeff does, let's back up. So anyway, so what Jeff does, he gives me a map, and these are magnetic anomalies, and there were hearths, ovens, pit houses, etc. Trash middens are located, and they cause a magnetic anomaly. So that's what these represent. Anyway, here's a close-up of where we're working on the early archaic component. And so here's the pit, and so it's down fairly deep. And so anyway, so this upper level, we'll come back, and this upper level is late prehistoric. We drop down here just about a meter, and we pick up the early Plains Archaic. And then down in here, there's a range fire through here. So clearly during the early Plains Archaic, there was a period of time when there was sufficient vegetation to make, you can't see it there, but a fairly distinct range fire level where there's, to get that much charcoal, there had to be a considerable amount of vegetation. Anyway, so the geologist I've used for forever is John Albanese. He's one of the first geologists that combined archaeology and geology, and he was one of the founders of a discipline called geoarchaeology. I had John come out and say, man, can you look at this terrace we're working on, and what do you think? Anyway, so John thought that there's a possibility we had 20 feet of soil deposition on the terrace. So we're down about 8 deep, and we've got the altithermal, and we got 15, 18 more feet to go. So I'm thinking, man, we're going to get into some paleo, or possible paleo. So I had Pat Cook from North Antelope Shell Mine bring a scraper out, and he commenced the scraping. We'd scrape, and then Jeff would use a magnetometer, and the magnetometer is able to look under the ground about yay deep, maybe 3 feet down. Anyway, so Pat would scrape, and Jeff would mag, and so we just kept working our way down. And now we're down about, I've got to convert between metric and feet. I don't work in feet, so I've got to use my little calculator here. But anyway, we're down about 20, basically just about 20 feet below the top of the terrace. And and so I know we're getting back to the bedrock, and here Jeff, he does his thing. And lo and behold, he finds anomalies and test anomalies, and they're cultural. So needless to say, I'm really, really excited. I was convinced, since we're so far down, that we're dealing with the paleo occupation. There's no doubt. So here we are, we're opening up, it's getting late fall, and it turns cold, starts snowing, put up some cover, some canopies over us. And anyway, so here's a living surface. This living surface is as pristine living surface I've ever excavated in my life. The bone, this is, whoops, the close up. Anyway, so we had like rabbit bone. The bone was just perfect shape. And here are the thermal features. And so, like I said, there's no doubt in my mind that it was paleo. And I was thinking that maybe I should call it the National Geographic, you know, and all this sort of thing. Anyway, so I sent off some charcoal for a radiocarbon date, and lo and behold, it came back basically 6,300 years old. Now, 13 feet above that, we were at the early Archaic level, and it dated 6,100 years old. So basically, in 200 years, we got 13 feet of deposition. And I was pretty disappointed it wasn't paleo, but it was just an awesome early Archaic component. So anyway, it's a summary for Holmes Draw site. The early Archaic occupation took place around 5,100 BC to around 5,300 BC. And cultural remains included, we only got one Hawken point, and monos, matati, hammerstones, scrapers, knives, numerous flakes, and then a wide range of animal sizes, but mostly small to intermediate sized mammals.